In the last 6 years, the Green Bay Packers have been the only team able to knock the Vikings from atop the NFC Central Division. Aware of the Vikings' expected strength for 1974, Packer fans were calling on a higher power for deliverance from the Norseman domination. However, the first series set the tenor of the contest as number 17 quarterback Jerry Tagge, attempting to pass to John Staggers, instead saw the aerial deflected into the hands of Viking safety Jeff Wright, number 23. Wright's return of 19 yards set up a Fred Cox field goal for a first quarter Minnesota lead. But the Packers fought back to match the three-pointer in the second quarter as the green and gold defenders held Fran Tarkenton virtually in check. Responding to the defensive surge, the Green Bay offense caught fire and marched in for the game's first touchdown. Behind a key block by number 62, Bill Luke, number 42, John Brockington, fought his way into the end zone to give the Packers the lead at 10-3. Not to be outdone, however, Tarkenton propelled the Vikings towards a tying touchdown. Number 44, Chuck Foreman, flashed through an enormous gap in the Packer wall for a 10-all halftime score. The third quarter began strangely enough like the game had begun. Number 43, Nate Wright, silenced the Packers' first possession of the second half with a well-timed interception. 4 plays later, a Chuck Foreman leap put Minnesota ahead to stay. The Viking defenders then got tough, and when Jerry Tagge reverted to the old college option, the only choice left open was painful. Controlling the tempo in the second half, the Vikings moved in close behind the thrust of Foreman and number 32, Oscar Reed. Reed and Foreman combined for 200 yards in total offense and set up Foreman's third touchdown on a short burst around right end. After a field goal up the Viking lead to 26-10, the Pack finally arose to fight back. Number 36, MacArthur Lane's 15-yard sprint brought Green Bay across midfield for the first time in the second half. 3 plays later, number 84, Steve Odom, took the reverse for all it was worth, finding pay dirt from 18 yards out. Now trailing 26-17, the Packers needed a good punt return to gain favorable field position as less than a minute remained. However, number 55, Amos Martin, gathered in the Steve Odom fumble and raced the final 16 yards to seal a most convincing Minnesota conquest, 32-17. In week number 1, Green Bay collapsed before a veteran Viking defense, but on Sunday, they met a callow Colt team comprised mainly of first and second-year players. "43 times, John Brockington, number 42, and MacArthur Lane, number 36, tested the Colts on the ground, and all they got for their troubles was a ton of bruises and a paltry 84 yards rushing. While Baltimore's front four manhandled Brockington and Lane, the Packers' superb pass defense throttled Colt quarterback Marty Domrey. Domrey's was intercepted 4 times by the alert Packers, and this one by safety Jim Hill, number 39, broke open a 3-3 tie in the second quarter. Hill's heads-up play set up an easy 1-yard touchdown by MacArthur Lane. Quarterback Jerry Taggy relied on short passes that sent backs circling over the middle to clear out the sidelines for the wide receivers. The Pack ran up a comfortable 20-6 pad on Lane's second touchdown, a 13-yard burst through the heart of the Colt defense. With time dying, Baltimore switched to the spring-loaded right arm of second-year quarterback Burt Jones. Next to Joe Gilliam of the Steelers, Jones has the hottest young gun in the NFL. But he is far behind Jefferson Street Joe in reading defenses, and often he just packs it up and runs for his life. Taking a page from John Unitas' playbook, Jones broke out the old flea flicker play. A pass interference call set up Baltimore nicely inside the Packer 10. From there, Jones threw to setback Bill Olds for the Colts' only touchdown of the game. Although the Packers dealt Baltimore their second straight loss, 20-13, it'll be an uphill fight for Green Bay in the NFC Central unless they find some lightning in their offense.
For the third straight week, the Detroit Lions faced an NFC Central Division foe, and the Lions' new head coach, Rick Perzano, was still looking for victory number 1, this time against the Green Bay Packers. The Lions' defense, which had been the big question mark prior to the season, continued to be the Lions' strength. After limiting the Minnesota Vikings to just 7 points the previous week, the Detroit defense held John Brockington to just 46 yards in 16 carries. And it was the Detroit defense which set up the Lions' first score when Packer quarterback Jerry Taggy was forced to scramble. His fumble was recovered by Herb Orvis, and 6 plays later, Earl Mann booted a 37-yarder, giving Detroit a 3-0 lead. Late in the quarter, Bill Munson, subbing for the injured Greg Landry, swung a pass to Al T. Taylor, and Taylor raced for a 34-yard gain, setting up Earl Mann's second field goal, making the score 6-0 Detroit. Green Bay got on the board 1 series later. When Detroit could not move, number 56 Ted Hendricks spiked Herman Weaver's punt out of the end zone for a safety. The score was 6-2. And 1 series later, Green Bay added a field goal, making it 6-5. But Billy Munson stepped back and hit number 49 Larry Walton behind Kenny Ellis for a 39-yard touchdown. Detroit 13-8 at halftime. Midway through the third quarter, Jerry Taggy found the range, hitting Barry Smith with a 27-yarder, and Green Bay took the lead for the first time, 18-16. But 1 play after the kickoff, Munson found number 45, Ray Jarvis, with a 25-yard pass. Jarvis added another 31, and 4 plays later, Earl Mann reclaimed the lead for Detroit, hitting on a 28-yard attempt, making the score Detroit 19, Green Bay 18. But then Green Bay's 3 yards and a cloud of dust offense began to take control of the football. After one 14-play drive netted them nothing, and another 10-yard drive fell just short of the goal line, Chester Marco banged up a short field goal, which gave Green Bay a 21-19 lead with less than a minute remaining. But 3 plays later, with 24 seconds remaining, Earl Mann stood 47 yards from victory. Mann's kick fell short, leaving the Lions on the short end of a 21-19 score. And Jim Mitchell's discouraged posture says all that needs to be said about the Detroit Lions at the end of this third straight frustrating defeat to a Central Division opponent. In Green Bay last week, the famous Packer colors were on display. Making foul weather gear necessary were ominous thunderclouds and the even more ominous Buffalo Bills. The high-pressure front had the Packers making early mistakes. One fumble was recovered by Buffalo's number 42, Neil Craig, who ran it in close to set it up for the Juice. But last week, the Juice got squeezed repeatedly and managed only 62 yards on 16 carries. Fortunately for them, the Bills are no longer a one-pronged attack, and quarterback Joe Ferguson found another route to the end zone on a 9-yard pass to number 27, Ahmad Rashad. Ferguson continued to cleave the cloudy skies for good yardage, hitting wide receiver J.D. Hill on this play. In close, Ferguson faked play action to Simpson, then went down the middle to tight end Paul Seymour, number 87. Three times, fullback Jim Braxton powered in from the 1-yard line as the Bills steadily increased their lead. Only once did their passing game cause Buffalo grief when on this play, number 28, Willie Buchanan, intercepted and ran the steal back to set up a Green Bay threat. Quarterback Jerry Taggy went first to the air and hit number 81, Rich McGeorge. Then John Brockington sliced through on his only big gainer in a 56-yard afternoon. Finally, number 36, MacArthur Lane, who had a mere 44 yards for the day, slipped into the end zone to register the only Packer points in a 27-7 Buffalo victory. For Buffalo coach Lou Saban, it looks like another year of contention for his club. But for Green Bay coach Dan Devine, it looks like another year of contention of another sort with the town of Green Bay.
It would be an ill-remembered day for LA's blue and gold, but for Green Bay Packer backers, last Sunday's stunning triumph was ample compensation for an afternoon of rain-splashed spectating. But the rain had an altogether different impact on John Hadel's passing game, as he could produce but 59 yards and one field goal against the elements and the Packers. With Hadel seemingly off form, number 12, James Harris, entered the game with something less than elegant form. But he still found number 19, Lance Rensel, over the middle for 25 yards. But facing 3rd and 6 at the Green Bay 11, Harris' next slip was much more costly. Although ruled an incomplete pass, the Rams settled for a field goal, which gave them just 6 points for the afternoon. With a combination of steady coverage and inspired rush, the Packers continually snuffed out the Rams' offensive flame. In the second quarter, the Rams, hoping to punt out of danger at their own 22, kicked the ball to number 22, John Staggers. And 68 yards later, it was 7-3 Green Bay. But just as the defense had done the blocking on Staggers' run, so too do they deserve the credit for setting off the rest of Green Bay's points. As in the third period, when number 28, Willie Buchanan's interception soon made it 10-3 Packers. But the brightest light on the defense came from number 56, Ted Hendricks, who 3 times snared errant LA passes, the last of which set up Green Bay's final touchdown. With the score standing at 10-6, the Packers had the ball at the LA 19 thanks to Mr. Hendricks. And then John Brockington started to do his thing. From the 5, it was number 42 into the Los Angeles end zone to give the Packers a confidence-boosting 17-6 win over the maybe not so hot Los Angeles Rams. Number 10, Jack Concannon, found his first starting assignment as a Green Bay Packer quarterback a little less than easy. Three times the 10-year veteran fell before a thunderous barrage of blue shirts as the Lion defenders temporarily plugged the Packer cannon. But while the Detroit defense sizzled, its offense fizzled, and number 19, Bill Munson, felt the Packer crunch. Munson overcame the Packer pressure long enough, however, to put Detroit in front, connecting with tight end Charlie Sanders for 6. Green Bay retaliated with the dead-eye passing of Jack Concannon. And though this strike to John Staggers was voided by a penalty, by the third period, Concannon had the Lions working to overcome a 10-9 lead. Larry Walton's touchdown put the Lions up by 6, leaving Jack Concannon the fourth quarter in which to challenge Detroit. John Brockington's catch put Green Bay in close, setting up a Concannon sneak and a 17-16 Packer advantage. With a missed conversion as the difference, it again seemed as though tough luck had befallen the Motor City men. But behind the rock-solid leadership of Bill Munson, Detroit began to make their own luck. Munson to number 89, Ron Jesse, clicked for good gainers and moved Detroit in for a last-ditch effort. Only minutes before, a Detroit field goal was blocked, and now with but 14 seconds left, place kicker Errol Mann would receive a rare second chance. Mann's 41-yarder held true to give the Detroit Lions a 19-17 win over the Green Bay Packers, while creating a three-way tie for second place in the NFC Central.
When two teams like the Packers and Redskins are thrown together, it automatically becomes the kind of bodily punishing slugout that only slow motion can find beauty in. It was, for the most part, a day of defense, in that throughout the first half, the Packers' clout was working effectively at shutting Billy Kilmer's offense down. But before halftime, Green Bay quarterback Jack Concannon let loose a pass from the tightening jaws of the Redskin rush that was destined for Washington possession. Number 89, Dave Robinson, made the interception, and the halftime score read Pack 6, Skins 3. With the start of the second half, one thing was clear: Billy Kilmer was throwing caution to the wind, and the result sparked a Redskin drive. Twice Billy looked for and found Charlie Taylor down the path to Packer pay dirt. From the Green Bay 22, Kilmer stepped back and zapped the football to number 46, Frank Grant, who busted into the Packer end zone for the game's only offensive touchdown and a 10-6 Washington lead. At the top of the fourth quarter, the game dramatically lost its competitive edge when Jack Kincannon rolled right and lofted a blooper which number 53 Harold McClinton latched a hold of to move the Skins about out of range for the plotting Green Bay offense at 17-6. But as the afternoon temperature plummeted and with it Packer hopes of glory, John Hadle warmed up for his debut as a Packer. And while number 12 did spark a Packer drive, his goal was too big and time too limited as the Redskins moved within 2 games of St. Louis in the NFC East. 17-6, Washington over the green and gold. Abe Gibron was all smiles before the game until he remembered that the Bears hadn't scored a touchdown in their last 11 quarters. But on their first play, it appeared the touchdown moratorium was nearing a conclusion as Huff heaved the Bears downfield. But the Pack 27-yard line was as close as they could get, and the Bears had to settle for a 3-pointer, which was it for the afternoon as the touchdown famine would stretch to 15 quarters. After having been beaten by the Bears earlier this season, the Pack was up last Sunday. And part of the reason was number 56, Ted Hendricks' inspirational play. The other part of the reason was a very wet football, which left Gary Huff looking downright silly on more than one occasion. The weather bogged down both teams' offenses, and it was all tied up 3-all with just 28 seconds left in the half, when number 84 Steve Odom received a punt at his own 5-yard line and started looking for the Chicago goal line. "95 yards later, his search was over as Odom, the rookie from Utah, put the Packers ahead of the Bears 10-3. From that point on, the weather deteriorated and Chicago's hopes for victory faded rapidly in the mounting gloom. But only the Bears stood under a black cloud last Sunday, as number 12 John Hadle kept the Packer offense above water throughout the day. And number 22, John Staggers, showed hydrofoil form on this 53-yarder in the third quarter. Once in close, the Green Bay attack featured a made-to-order mutter in number 42, John Brockington. And by the beginning of the final quarter, the Pack led 13-3. Obviously, rain and sludge don't favor offenses, and last Sunday, Gary Huff got thrown for a total of 47 mud-mopping yards as he learned firsthand the amphibious nature of the Packer defense. Appropriately enough, it was the Packers' defense that set up the game's only touchdown from scrimmage, when a Huff blooper was tipped into the startled hands of number 76, Mike McCoy, which gave the Green Bay Packers a 20-3 triumph over the basement-beleaguered Bears.
Last Sunday, Fran Tarkenton became only the second player ever to pass for 35,000 yards in a pro career. But wait, Green Bay had a quarterback who became only the 5th player ever to pass for 30,000 yards. In only his 3rd game as a Packer, John Hadle's short passing game was largely responsible for running up an early advantage over the division-leading Minnesota Vikings. Hadle's most effective weapon was John Brockington, who had his best day of the year with 137 yards rushing and over 200 yards in total offense. While Minnesota wouldn't allow Green Bay to cross its goal line for most of the game, John Hadel got the Packers close enough for 4 Chester Marcold field goals and a 12-0 lead. The Packers' 12-0 lead would have been even greater, except that a fumble from the 2-yard line into the Minnesota end zone resulted in a harmless touchback instead of a touchdown Green Bay. The Green Bay defense kept the NFC's second-ranked offense in check for most of the game, or at least until the fourth quarter, when Fran Tarkenton pulled the Vikings to within striking distance at 12-7 with a pass to Chuck Foreman, who added to his league-leading scoring total with his 13th touchdown of the season. With 3.5 minutes left, John Hadel put the game out of reach when he beat a Minnesota blitz with a short pass over the middle to number 36, MacArthur Lane. "68 yards later, MacArthur Lane finally met his match. While the Minnesota defense could not stop MacArthur Lane, unfortunately for Lane, a rolled-up tarpaulin and a cyclone fence did stop him, at least temporarily. The last flicker of hope for the Vikings was extinguished when a Fran Tarkenton pass to the end zone was intercepted by safety man Al Matthews, number 29. For the Vikings, it was a distressing third straight loss at home, while the John Hadel-led Packers evened their record at 5-5. As Packer coach Dan Devine said later, John may not be an immediate messiah, but remember, Minnesota was 7-7 the first year Fran Tarkenton came back to them. And as Viking coach Bud Grant said, Hadel was the best quarterback in the league last year, and you don't win that with coupons. Despite their dismal 3-8 record, the San Diego Chargers are one of the most improved teams in pro football, and a month ago they might even have been favored to dispatch the Green Bay Packers. But in that month, these Packers have begun living up to their legendary name. And though their improvement coincides with the arrival of John Hadel, the Pack is doing it mainly with defense. This perfect play by defensive end Clarence Williams, number 83, is typical of the alert, experienced brand of ball the Pack has been playing. And all facets of the Packers roster have been contributing to the victory drive, which may even yet overhaul the Minnesota Vikings. In this case, it is Eric Torkelson who is Johnny on the spot to ring up 6 points for Packers special teams. Green Bay's 2 great cornerbacks, Willie Buchanan and Ken Ellis, number 48, are reunited again after Buchanan missed most of last season with a broken leg. And that makes the Packer D a threat to score from anywhere on the field. In fact, Green Bay had 20 points on the board before the offense could contribute a touchdown. But John Hadel got his steady hand in, completing 14 of 22, including this 24-yarder to MacArthur Lane to wrap up an impressive 34-0 shutout over the tough Chargers. And though we hesitate to forecast that the Pack is back, we can say it was a glorious day in Green Bay.
It was a bitter day that made you want to retreat into your shell like a turtle to keep warm. At Veterans Stadium, while the wind howled and the rain poured, the Eagle defense, led by number 66 Bill Berge, stormed on the playoff hopes of the Green Bay Packers. The Packers fumbled an incredible 8 times. The most damaging was recovered by defensive end Will Wynn, number 71, who scooped up a MacArthur Lane bobble and raced 87 yards to a touchdown. For the happy occasion, Wynn came up with a novel spike as he rolled the dice, and instead of 7, it came up 6 points and a 15-0 Eagle lead. Rookie Mike Varilla started for bruised and battered Roman Gabriel and maintained the heritage of illustrious Stanford quarterbacks by screaming a 6-pointer to Charlie Young. Young's dice were hotter than Will Wynn's as Philadelphia rolled to a 29-0 wipeout of the faded Pack. Near the end of the first half, Green Bay awoke on the hands and legs of tight end Rich McGeorge. George's play led to a John Brockington touchdown, and it seemed the stunned Packers were ready to make a move when MacArthur Lane took a swing pass and went solo for 6 more. Lane's extraordinary run was denied by a penalty, but minutes later he scored for real, and the surging Packers trailed 29-14. But Green Bay fell on its own sword when a Harry Carey Hadel chest pass turned into a disastrous fumble. Barilla put the game out of everyone's reach, but 6'8" Harold Carmichael, whose touchdown built a 36-14 bulge. The 9th Packer mistake was intercepted by Bill Berge, who frolicked like a small boy en route to throwing one of the most accurate passes of the day. The Eagles' first victory after 6 straight losses was a sweet one as they knocked Green Bay out of the playoff picture 36-14.
Last Sunday in Candlestick Park, the positive side of the Green Bay offense was only rarely in evidence. Short outlet and flare passes to running back MacArthur Lane, number 36, twice moved the Packers in for field goals. But that was it for the day. Eventually, John Hadel's passes got him in trouble, as did this one picked off by number 57, Frank Nunnally. But while the Green Bay offense sputtered, so did the 49ers, which was scoreless through 3 periods. Finally, an interference penalty gave San Francisco the go field position. From there, first-year running back Sammy Johnson, number 48, took the ball and faked and juked his way to the 4-yard line. Number 24, Delvin Williams, did the honors on what came very close to being a minor tragedy instead of a touchdown, and San Francisco led 7-6. For the Packers, playing catch-up football led to trouble as once again John Hadel was intercepted, this time by number 49, Ralph McGill, who returned the ball 45 yards to the 4. But the 49ers couldn't score again before time ran out, so had to settle for a 7-6 win. A win due in major part to a big, tough defense that might have gone places in '74 if coupled with a more potent offense. A very few of the Falcons' faithful turned out on this dank, gray final Sunday of the 1974 season. And on the Packers' opening drive, they witnessed the longest offensive play of the game. And John Hadel hit Rich McGeorge for 29 yards. But a fumble stilled this drive on the very next play. Green Bay had to wait until the third quarter before causing a flicker on the scoreboard when Eric Torkelson broke away on this 21-yard run, which set up a three-pointer by Chester Marcole. For the remainder of the afternoon, Green Bay was stymied by a very effective Atlanta defense with plays like this by number 34, Ray Brown. But neither could a season-long impotent Atlanta attack generate any heat. Laid out in the cold as defense reigned. And one touchdown scored by Atlanta's Dave Hampton in the first quarter was enough to win this game as the Atlanta Falcons bumped the Green Bay Packers at the end of a disappointing season for both clubs. Final, Green Bay 3, Atlanta 10.